A false start, but hopefully we are live now. We should get a confirmation in just a second. And I see a very unusual thing on my dashboard, so apologies. I'm just going to take a quick second to clear that up. Okay, we've got our quality options. We are loading into Hollow Knight. Everything looks good. So, the worst thing is I was actually prepping for a 7 sharp stream tonight, and then a few things kind of got in the way. Wow. Okay, sorry. I was just getting ready to close. Or I was just getting ready to load into Hollow Knight, and I see here I've got a crash notice from GOG Galaxy, and it's put up this crash reporter that does not actually have like they will always send. The way it's set up is it will always send a report unless you click the top right corner. That's a really scummy way of doing that. Shame on them. Okay, sorry. That's totally irrelevant to Hollow Knight. It just happened to be the thing that was covering my screen before we could do this. Where's Hollow Knight? I'm sorry, I'm trying to find Hollow Knight here. As you can see, I've gone from this serene start to my stream to all of a sudden flapping around trying to figure out where all my stuff is. Oh, that's right. I recategorized my Steam lists to to try and I don't know, just try. So I've been trying to solve the problem that I think everybody is, and that Steam's trying to solve for us, which is you have too many games. How do you know what to play? So I've made a list which I actually call "I've got nothing to play," because I hate that I am like this, and I think deep down we all sort of know what this is like, which is you've got a library full of games that you've not played. And yet when you sit down, like you decide, it's like, okay, I'm going to get some gaming done. And actually, whenever I think that, I actually try and read a book now, which I've got a 50-50 track record. Sometimes I follow through, sometimes I don't. But like you just have this sense of paralysis, or like, it's like, I got nothing good, maybe I should buy a new game or something like that. So I don't know, this is totally unrelated to Hollow Knight, but just out of curiosity, there's 64 games installed on this one. About 100 entries on the list. Here are some things which I put in my What Should I playlist, which a couple of these I've played, but I haven't gotten through to the end on. So I'll mention the ones which I haven't played at all. Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown, Alien Isolation, Apotheon, Blood Bowl 2, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, Castle Crashers, Dishonored. Okay, a few of these I've actually played, and I just haven't put a lot of time into. Everspace, Grim Fandango Revisited, Homeworld Deserts of Karak, which Night Valiant did a really good job of. Jotun, a Canadian game. Kentucky Route Zero, The Long Dark, another Canadian game. Quantum Conundrum, Shadow Tactics Blade of the Shogun, Sigma Theory, Space Hulk Deathwing Enhanced Edition, although I'm told is actually not that good. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, Stendarin, Transistor, Unity of Command 2, Volume, Warhammer 40k Gladius, and Xenonauts, which, some of these games maybe you won't have heard of, but there's some really good games in that list, to say the least. So the idea that I have bought any games having not played some of those... Oh, hello. I just saw a game for 90% off, and I'm so close to picking it up. I'll think about it. That's not something I need to solve on stream because it's been 5 minutes. Anyways, yeah. So, needless to say, it's wonderful I have so much choice. But I do feel really bad. Well, okay, it's a tricky one. It's very hard for me to try and understand what the developer's problem is because to a certain extent, I think there is a larger audience for games than I can comfortably comprehend. There is an audience, well, actually, just by virtue of the fact, so because there are these, hentai style games, which have these very, very high reviews that, creep up when you look at the top sellers. The music of this game really is good. And also, welcome, Itel. So, this is an audience that I'm probably never really going to understand. They clearly are being very well served because the games are so highly rated. And, I mean, the review numbers seem to suggest that these things are selling well. So that's an entire audience that are gamers, but it's just something that I don't quite register. And maybe they like other types of games. Maybe that's the only thing that they'll play. There are certain more experimental indies which I haven't been able to hook into, and then there's indies like Hollow Knight and Crypt of the Necrodancer, which really do speak to me. And so to a certain extent, I think the potential market is much larger than I can reasonably conceive. So I think sometimes my worries about the fact that I'm looking at these sort of world-class games which I own and haven't played, and I'm saying it's oh, well, how could I buy a fancy new game in the face of such quality that I haven't played yet? So there's that. But on the other hand, I also think to a certain extent, even something like Hollow Knight, I'm willing to guess that there is a larger number of people who have not even heard of Hollow Knight yet, than currently own it or play it. The audience that will tend to play something like the latest Battlefield or Call of Duty. Latest Battlefield trailer is great, by the way. I'm really looking forward to that. Although there was something in the ad copy that really annoyed me. So yeah, it's an interesting problem. I mean, let's face it, there are companies like Team Cherry, there are companies like Brace Yourself Games and Weather Factory and all of these companies that are able to do these really rewarding games that break through and find an audience. But boy, it's really nerve-wracking to just think about how, if let's suppose that my life were to take a very dramatic turn and I was like, okay, I'm going to make a game and this is going to be how I make a living. I wouldn't even know how to begin to try and answer that question. How do I find people who might be into my game? So to a certain extent, I am incredibly grateful that so many people have been able to answer that question and have been able to get in touch with me. But I am awed by the fact that this is working. Anyways, as much as I like this music, I think the time has come for me to throw myself at God Home and bring in another batch of good music. Another batch of good music, actually, that I keep getting copyright notices for on YouTube, but that's life. So we did better on the Pantheon of the Sage last week. Again, I'm going to try and limit myself on expectations. But we did manage to get past our big block, and then it's the God Tamer, which is giving us a little trouble now. But right now, we're gonna see if we can lock in our experience with the Collector, and then push through on the. Things feel a little sluggish. Oops. I think between fights I might try and see if there's a setting I can change, because this is definitely feeling... I don't know if you guys are feeling it, but it just feels slow. And I don't like being one of those obsessed with frame rate kind of gamers, but particularly on a stream thing, I'd like it if the experience can be as enjoyable as possible. Oh, actually, I don't know if I can say who it is just because of the context of the email. But I got a really nice email from a developer who, you know, as an aside, is like, oh, by the way, you've got some fans in the office, like they, you know, left some comments on the stream. So that made me feel really good. All right, not a bad round. Probably could do a little bit better. Actually, let me just take a second here. So I know the Steam in-game frame rate tool isn't quite the best marker. Hey, how you doing, Night Valley? I actually got to mention you right off the top. We're talking about 94% GPU utilization. Is Hollow Knight really that hardcore? Oh, and some drop frames. Interesting. I might have to do a quick reset at the start, just so we can see where we're at. Oh, well, you know what? Saying like 300 frames a second, so I can actually believe that utilization. Okay. I wish I knew what that cap was. I'm hoping that 144 is its cap, but let's see if that can... Okay, now it says 363. I need to maybe pay a little more attention. Okay, anyways, oh, that's worse. What's going on here? By the way, is this just entirely in my head? Like, is this actually just like what the stream normally is, or does the game feel sluggish by comparison to someone else? Because I'd be willing to do a reset after this round to oh boy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know, like, how does, for those of you who normally watch, how is the stream? Like, is it okay? Am I imagining things, or is this thing feeling a little sluggish to everyone else? Because I figure if I get my, cannot see the difference between 30 and 60, but it looks smooth to you? Okay, so I'm gonna just shut up and assume that everything is fine and that the frame drops were an anomaly. It might also just be because I've been playing some other things in between. But yeah, Night Valian most recently did Homeworld Deserts of Karak, which you mentioned before. I do not remember the name of the game that you were playing, but then I think you beat that last night, so you are maybe feeling the difference between 360 and 144. Well, I only have a 144 monitor. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's it. Let me just make sure that my monitors... or my Windows settings... Yeah, now you're playing Maneater, which is a ridiculous but rather enjoyable game to watch you play. But anyways, Night Valian is good fun to watch. Okay, no, we're set up here. Um, yeah. So Night Valian was playing a game where not only do you play a shark, but you play a shark that can jump up on the beach and like start eating people. It is an incredibly silly and amazing game. It is a lot of fun to watch. One of the people I like to host in the evening, and somebody I've discovered, Brazilian streamer who goes a bit later than I do, but is also quite a regular viewer of the broadcast. Okay, so obviously that was not a good first start, but I spent too much time complaining about my settings. So let's just get through. Oops. That was worth a shot. Sacre bleu. Unbelievable. Alright, so that's 2 rough rounds. Some things I wanted to say. So I'm debating, obviously it's Friday, so I'm in a little bit of a better state in terms of catching up on sleep. I do plan on sleeping in tomorrow, but it's a shame because for those of you wondering about what happened on Monday, the data was completely, irretrievably lost. The responses from people is completely and depressingly predictable. So it's usually, it's like, why didn't you back up? I'm like, oh gee, I never really thought about that. You know, backing up. Oh, if only you'd been around at the time I made that virtual machine, I could have avoided this tragedy. So I'm not going to talk about why. Suffice to say, there was a very specific reason why I didn't put the data that was lost onto something like a Google Drive or whatever. Some of you know that reason, but it's not something I'd like to just kind of put out there for everyone. So I realize this is not going to make me popular. I am done with Linux. Like, I'll do it for toy stuff. I'm not using it for anything on production again. And there's a coworker who's a huge Linux fan. Like, it wasn't Linux's problem. It's like hard drive crashes happen everywhere now. So I'm like, you know, that may be true. It wasn't exactly a hard drive crash. It was something specifically about the partition, and something happened in DNF when I was doing an upgrade, and that sort of put in place this sort of cascading failure, partly brought on by community answers to in the Linux forums, incidentally. So, but like the fact of the matter is that I have actually had a case where there was a problem with a partition, and it was looking like I might lose some important data. I've had that happen once before on not an Apple computer itself, but an external hard drive I had for it. I opened up the disk utility, and it was basically like, oh, here, yeah, I know what to do. I got this for you. It's like basically automatic, and I was like, oh god, like I love these computers. So like at this point, I'm except for streaming stuff, I'm basically a Mac user now. Like my computer preference is now a Mac, because the command line stuff I want to do, like it's a POSIX compliant Unix OS, right? Like it's more Unix than Linux is. So it's got that going for it. I will admit, this laptop that I have now is the first one that I would technically be replacing due to a technical problem rather than than the thing just getting out of date. Basically, my battery doesn't hold a charge anymore, and apparently this was a problem with my generation of laptops. So it's the first like mechanical problem that's making me replace an Apple computer that I've had before. And I love the OS. Like, it's my computer of choice, and I'm done pretending that that these things are equivalent. So I realize it's not a popular opinion. I know people like to hate on Apple, but I'm assigning a premium to being able to get stuff done, and I'm not a huge Windows fan, so either through lack of options or just simply having a really good user experience with Macs. It's my new computer of choice. Sorry, what was it? Sometimes not even redundancy can help. Oh no, a nerd somewhere Steve Jobs puts his feet up and thinks, got another one. Yeah, I don't know, like, I remember, so one thing that really interested me was when Dennis Ritchie died. I put a thing out on social media sort of just marking his contribution and, you know, like just kind of saying is like, this is, you know, one of these examples of somebody who is incredibly influential in your day-to-day life when you consider how important computing is, and the fact that basically all of our phones are sort of taking advantage of a system that he wrote before. And, you know, obviously the C language is at the top of the TIOBE index again. I just sort of says, like, you know, it's one of these nerdy things where, you know, this is not somebody who is very good at selling, right? Like, he was at Bell Labs, he did the job that he needed to do, and it is one that, like, he answered a problem so well that it's essentially the solution we still have for a set of computer problems. You know, nobody really commented on it at the time, which is completely understandable. It's like, you know, any other time that somebody marks an obituary. There's no shortage of people passing. So, but what I did notice was when Steve Jobs died, all of a sudden people were talking about Saint Ritchie of Bell Labs, and how he was the person that we should be paying attention to instead of Steve Jobs. And I was like, you know, I actually wrote this stuff at the time. Like, other than the fact you want to hate on Steve Jobs, like, are you actually committed to this idea? Because here's the thing that I'll say for Steve Jobs. I'm going to leave aside the fact that I think he does not get enough credit for his technical knowledge, because I will also acknowledge that his, you know, part of the thing that made Apple what Apple is, you know, some really major talents working there. Again, I think as a whole, people tend to underrate rather than overrate his technical know-how. But clearly, you know, he was not, you know, people really always want like this one singular hero to like sort of slam everything through, and it's never true. But I will say, let's acknowledge for a fact that the sort of meme is true, and that all he was very good at was marketing. It's important to remember that marketing job happened at a time when computing was something that was assumed to be only the role of large businesses. And that essentially the salesmanship job was not just a question in terms of buy a Macintosh, or in that case, you know, an Apple computer, the Macintosh being something that came out later. But specifically that this was a marketing job of using the computer as a way of doing things. It's essentially something that enabled a lot of the benefits that were, you know, the simple idea now that, you know, a doctor will sit down and use a computer to do some stuff. That someone like myself, you know, having gone to university, you know, at university, I'm not going to sit down and grind out the estimators by hand, or I'm not going to submit them to a mainframe. And if I'm no longer attached to university, I better hope I work for a large company. That this is just something that I can do on my own. Is it possible that shift would have happened without a figure like Jobs? Sure. I mean, it's always possible, right? We don't know because we don't have the experiment, but I will suggest that someone doing that job of making it cool and making it, specifically focusing it on it as a product that a common end user who is not a computer specialist wants to use, is something that we very much take for granted today, but was not at all an obvious step at the time that computers became an incredibly important part of our lives. And that contribution, I think, because people like to dislike large companies, people like to dislike trendy things, people like to, to be indie and cool. I do tend to think that gets underrated. I don't know, like, I realize I'm sort of sounding like, an Apple spokesman right now. Obviously use the computer that you like. There's viewers who I happen to know will only use Linux stuff. And obviously the choice is there. I will, by the way, point out that I believe Linus Torvalds uses a MacBook Air and just puts Linux on it. So there's still something to be said for the quality of the hardware. But yeah, I don't know. That's my thing on it. I'm an incredibly happy customer, and I actually also did research, both like formal research and informal for myself, about the idea of expensive Macs. They're not the most expensive computer you can buy, it turns out. Got careless. I was too busy thinking of Steve Jobs and all the nice things he'll say to me in heaven. Ugh. By the way, rants like that one are why I don't have a viewer count up in the bottom of the screen. I have no idea how I'm going to get out of this. Alright. Wow, so we've had 3 runs and I haven't gotten past the first 2 bosses. Maybe I shouldn't complain about it being sluggish and just acknowledge that it's me, my brain, that's sluggish. Oops, I thought I could get a sneaky shot in. That was really upsetting. Oh god. If you're wondering about that little delay before, I thought I had max souls. So I was trying to do a shout. Oh. Sorry. Okay, that's gonna sting. I'm almost certainly not gonna dodge it. There's one last thing I want to try here. Okay, you know what? I'm really sorry to do this. I am going to reset the stream really quickly. No, actually, let's finish the battle. Again, I'm just looking at that GPU utilization. I'm wondering if this is like a Unity thing, or maybe it's always been like this. But it's really weirding me out. Oh. Unbelievable. Okay, it'd be nice if I can get the health back, but obviously... Oh, now I kind of have to. Cool. It's a little dicey here, but you can probably... Oh my god! Well, that was sort of impressive for a little while, and then I kind of blew it. Alright. So yeah, I don't know. This might all be in my head, but I am going to just take a second here to do a proper reset. I apologize for those of you checking out the stream. This may not actually improve anything for me, but I am feeling a little nervous about what's happening with my computer right now. So I'm going to do just a quick reset, and we'll see if that improves things on my end, and then we'll be back for a full Hollow Knight session. See you guys in a little bit.